Okay. All right. So we are, gosh, what week are we in? I think week 9 or 10. Anyway, we're past the halfway mark, so we're over halfway there for the semester. So today I'm going to cover, we're going to cover composition and layout. All right, so that is in, oh gosh, I'm not very prepared this morning. I forget which chapter it is in the book. Anyway, chapter after color. So I'm going to go over some details from that chapter, talk about composition, talk about layout and design, and then we'll look at some examples, and I'll talk about the assignments for this week. Okay. So let me get my slides pulled up here. Okay. Position and layout. All right, so yeah, chapter 10 in the book. So I don't have a whole lot of slides here, but definitely read through the book, look at the examples that they have in there. Okay, so I don't have all the examples in the slides, but you guys can take a look at those in the book. So composition and layout, super important in any kind of design, whether it's digital media design. Okay, so if you're designing something for a web page, app, whatever that might be, or print. Okay, so pretty much all the fundamentals, though, that we are going to talk about in regard to hold on a second. That does that. Okay, here we go. Sorry. It's weird when I use Keynote, I have to get out of the full screen version to let people into the room. PowerPoint seems to work okay, so sorry about that. Okay, let's go back here. So yeah, all the principles though and the foundations for composition and layout come from print-based design. Okay, so it all kind of started, with newspaper, magazine layouts, back in the day before computers. And then it's kind of just slowly evolved up until the 80s when designers and publishers started to use computers for layout. Okay, and then probably within the last 20 years is where that has really kind of exploded with better software, better tools for this layout and composition. And especially now that we can apply that to website design, web page design, said mobile app, user experience design, user interface design, all comes from those basic principles that we've been using for, over 100 years with print layout. So the main goal when we're working with something, as far as trying to create a layout, is we want to be consistent with the styles that we're using, treat our design elements similar. Okay, so all of your design elements that we talked about previously, whether it's shape, color, line, texture, all those things, we want to have some sort of a unified approach when we're using those in our layout. And then there's kind of two types of unity that we're going to talk about that the book goes over, conceptual unity and visual unity. All right. So conceptual unity is when you're using your design elements to kind of create a meaning or reference. All right. So the example in the book here, it's kind of that theme of 5, right? So we could use the number 5, Roman numerals, objects, right? hands on a clock. Okay, so it's all around that theme of 5. Okay, so we're using these elements to reference that. Or we can use visual unity, where we're using similar types of shapes, maybe similar color patterns, but yet we're creating that consistency. Okay, so this example over here is just a 4x4 grid where we're using different shapes within there, but even though it's different shapes and different colors, there's still a sense of unity, right? Because we're aligning those in a grid type pattern. And so we'll talk about grids here a little bit more as well. All right. And when we think about unity, especially in new media design, right? So websites, mobile app design, we have to think about, so let's take the web pages, for example. We have many different screens or many different pages within that site. So we need to have that sense of unity throughout. Okay, so that's why we, like beginning last year with the intro web class, web design class, we talk about using consistent graphics, consistent navigation. You know, you want to have that consistency throughout all the different pages. Okay, so when you're using you know, multiple images on a screen, you want to create unity through like where maybe they're placed. Okay, the placement of them, the size of the images or the graphics. All right, because we want to kind of have everything kind of hold together as one kind of unit. All right, so this is an example in the book. So it's a little like interface here for some kind of a code brick or game or something. The first example there, we got a lot of things going on here. We have the different colors, right? We have the these different little balls that we have, and the different input boxes, right? So, I mean, there's some unity in the way it's laid out, but if we look at the example below there, we're starting to incorporate some different shapes that create the backgrounds for those little the little toggle dots or whatever those are. We're using rounded corners on the rectangles, right, to kind of tie in with the shape of the, you know, the little balls there, the spheres. Okay, so just little details like that help to kind of create that unity a little bit better. Okay, so like the rounded corners, the way we connect all the different areas there. The top one, we just have one big gray background, and the second one there, we have a couple of like the rounded corner rectangles, and on the right side there, we have different ways that we connect those to create that unity. All right. So this all goes back to those design elements that we talked about for the first 8 weeks of class. And these are kind of your tools that you'll use to create the unity within your compositions and your layouts. All right, so we have space, where we're grouping, arranging things in a pattern, some sort of a equal alignment, right? We have line, we're maybe using similar line widths, qualities, maybe the shape of the line, helping to move the eye in the directions that we want on screen. We have shape, right? So again, similar shape patterns. Okay, so like the example on the previous screen where we had the rounded corners on the rectangles. Values, using similar values to create that unity, all right? Textures, again, using similar textures. And then color, using a similar color pattern, color scheme to help create that compositional unity. All right, so taking all those elements that we've worked with before And now what we're doing is we're really bringing them all together, okay? So now we have all the ingredients, and now we're putting it all together. Okay, so when we create our layouts, then that's when we're taking all of those elements, right, and we're putting them together. So there's an example in the book. It's for a basic, real simple UI for this game. It takes you through phases, all right? So I don't have all the examples here on screen, but if you look in the book, this is kind of like the first example here on screen. But they kind of go by step and use line and shape and color to create a more functional layout. Okay, so take a look at that in the book and kind of see the progression of that to see kind of how they can enhance the layout. So something we talk about here, again, this is going back to what I was talking about with print media, right? So the human brain still functions pretty much the same, whether it's looking at design on a magazine, printed piece of paper, or a digital screen on the phone or monitor, whatever it might be. So these ideas that kind of stay true is that we tend to read left to right, top to bottom. Okay, so kind of like how we read a book. Usually the more important elements we put near the top. Okay, so when we're talking about web design, we talk about the fold. Okay, so again, it's another term that comes from print, but the fold is that space that's visible when you first load a screen, first load a web page, right? So we want those important elements above the fold. Usually larger elements emphasize more importance. Okay, so if you want people to draw attention to something, you're probably going to increase the size of it, whether it's a text, like a headline, or a graphic or something like that. You're going to make it a little bit bigger. It's important to put captions a lot of times near images to help communicate what that graphic or what that image, the importance of it. And then if we're creating something where it's a progression, we'll put like next or continue. We'll put those near the bottom of the page. Okay. So you can, these aren't set in stone, right? You can play around with these, but it's always important to just kind of keep these factors in mind when you're working on your layout. All right. We talked about grid. So using a grid, it's important in layout and design because it gives a sense of, again, a sense of unity, a sense of flow. It keeps everything kind of tied together, right? So whenever I'm working on something, whether it's a print piece or a digital piece, something for a website or whatever it might be, I always use a grid. Okay, and you can do this through a lot of the different design tools. All the Adobe software has options to have a grid, kinds of guidelines that you can place behind on the canvas, behind all of your different layers and elements. But you can see here on the right, there's kind of a simple example of how this kind of helps us, right? So we try to line up the text, the buttons, the different headlines, headers, all those different things. If you use a grid, it kind of creates a sense of order, a sense of structure, which usually the human brain tends to want to help process information a lot easier. Okay, so if you just do a simple grid, whether it's you can divide the canvas up by pixels or inches, whatever type of measurement you want to use. It's a good idea to at least have some sort of a grid to help get you started with and it'll also help you, right? It's going to help with the visual placement of different objects on your canvas. Alrighty, let's take a look. We'll just look at some examples here real quick of layout and kind of look at a few things here. So again, this is just designspiration.com website that has a lot of different examples. Okay, so if we look at, let's just start looking at some of these here. Again, this one uses a nice grid pattern. You see we got a dividing right down the vertical and horizontal center here. All of the text, okay, so right here, that all lines up on the left side. This right column of text, you can see it still lines up to the right. We have a nice kind of equal amount of space that we're putting in here for these different text blocks. All right, so kind of a nice sense of layout used here. Let's look at some other ones. That looks interesting. Let's take a look at this. Let me see if I can put this image in a new tab. Okay, so this is something you probably, it's going to be like a mobile version, which when you're working on something for the mobile screen view, it gets pretty simple, right? Because you're going to pretty much put everything into a one column type of a layout. Okay, so, but still this headline up here lines up all the way across here. Let's kind of scroll through. Again, we got equal spacing here between the headlines and this little dividing line. All right, let's look here. So we're going, I'm guessing we got this center vertical line that's dividing. So we got equal space to the right of this text and to the left of that text. Okay, again, nice, clean layout here. Everything's lined up. We got equal size on the icons here and how those are lined up. All right. Let's see here. Interesting. Okay, so, and also as well, your grid can be as detailed as you want it, okay? So with something like this, the majority, it's set up in a 3-column grid for the 3 columns of text here. And then I'm not sure how many vertical grid lines they're using. I'm guessing it's probably a three column, and then they're dividing it maybe into like, I don't know, 16ths or something like that. So I'm looking here. This one's a little different because they're incorporating these letters here, but these letter forms all stay within that width of each column, right? They don't move outside of that column. Okay, so that was kind of interesting. Let's see if we can find some more digital layouts here. Let's do layout. All right, so this is a website. Okay, and so the nice thing, most of you are starting to get into the more advanced web development and web design. So you're going to be using things like Bootstrap and other CSS tools to help, like using a flex box or using the grid elements within CSS. Those are going to help you quite a bit to create these nice, orderly type of layouts. Okay, so definitely use those tools, right? So use Bootstrap and all those CSS elements that we talk about. This one here looks kind of interesting. Okay, we got a nice grid going on here. Notice that like this little video box is kind of lining up toward the top of that there. All right, so it's always, whenever you're starting a project, it's always good to go out and kind of get some inspiration. Okay, so this Design Inspiration site is pretty good, as well as Adobe Behance is another website that I use quite a bit. So if you just go to behance.net. So this is the Adobe one where pretty much all the professional designers upload their portfolios into Behance. Okay, so I have one here. All right, so these are all projects that I've worked on. Let's see if there's anything to look at as far as grids and layout. Okay, so this one here, pretty much kept everything center on that one that I did. And these are all, okay, this one here I got, I used these kind of background blocks to put the text in, right? But then I got the text, it's all lining up nice and neat to the left side, right? The register button there, it's all centered. So those ones there, kind of keeping everything within these boxes that I designed. So this was some stuff that I worked on for College of Ag, for new branding for them. Okay, so you can notice here, like this block of text, I kind of line up with that there. So this one I used a pretty intricate grid system, like that there. It's all nice and neat. Okay, so this one was a little bit different because I was using these kind of angled rectangular boxes within the design. Okay, but little subtle things like this College of Agriculture text right there lines up with the edge of the graphic that I had right there. All right, so again, Behance, you can go to Behance and find a lot of good stuff there. All right, so let's talk about your projects for this week. Okay, so the first thing, we got a new daily create. All right, and so for this one, for this week, this one's kind of a fun one. What I want you to do is combine two logos and use those logos and put them together, right? So it's kind of fun because like this one, they use the Yahoo text treatment to make Google, combining Twitter with YouTube, Amazon, Apple, okay? So kind of have fun with this one. Just pick two logos from two companies that you like, and they can be, it could be two totally different types of companies and combine the logos into one thing. Okay, so should be fun. Always, students always come up with some pretty interesting and kind of fun, a lot of times pretty comical logos for that. So that'll be due by Wednesday. And then, okay, so for your big assignment this week, you're going to create a movie poster. Okay, so you're going to think about composition and layout and using all the design elements that you've been working on throughout the semester. Okay, so You can design it 11 by 17 size. You need to have the title of the movie. You can have need to have a secondary, some secondary text, whether it's a quote from the movie or a tagline or something like that. I want you to kind of think in layers as well. Okay, so think about your background, your foreground, the text. So I want you to kind of incorporate 5 layers in there. And if you could save it at 200 DPI, that'd be good, because a lot of times I like to print these out and put them up around campus. Okay, so there's the grading rubric. And when you're done, you can save it out as a PNG, preferably a PDF if you can, or a PNG or JPEG will work too. All right, so some examples. Let's take a look at some. So I always like this because a lot of times the movie posters that you see in the theaters are really horrible. They're not very unique or creative. And so, let me pull this up. There's a site called Mondo that has these poster designs that artists and designers kind of make on their own for fun, just to be creative. And it's kind of sad because a lot of times the posters on this site are way better than the ones you see in the actual theaters. So maybe get some inspiration from some of these posters. Again, you can just go Google Mondo and look at some of the posters that they have. So this one's for Captain America. I love the composition here, right, with the star kind of shape in the middle. You got the World War II planes kind of screened in the background there. And then some of the other characters from the movie around the edges there. Okay, so the shield, again, the shield's a really important part of the movie. This one for Thor is really good. Kind of like the way they did the treatment of the title of the movie to kind of mimic the lightning coming off of his hammer. All right, so simple color scheme, but as far as like the composition, it works really well with the way they divide it up with the lightning. This one's for Wally. I love the color scheme. Okay, so we got like a triadic color scheme here with the green, purple, and orange. Okay, and then using the different shapes. So if you look at like we have this kind of theme of round, circular shapes, kind of used throughout the poster. That's really, really interesting the way they did that. Okay, it flows really nice, lots of balance. And talk about balance. I love this poster for Black Panther. Incorporating all the kind of geometric shapes in there, and then the way the characters and everything create this awesome sense of vertical balance throughout the poster. Back to the Future, this one's great. So we're really focusing on the DeLorean there. Okay, color scheme's nice. Instead of showing the entire DeLorean, it's just a kind of zoomed in section of it there. We got the clock tower in the background. These are pretty famous. You've probably seen these Star Wars posters. These are probably my favorite. I just love the way they incorporated these different scenes from the movies and illustrated them to create these character shapes, right? So like the Darth Vader one there with the trees kind of creating the eyes and the mouthpiece of the helmet. The middle one there with 3PO with the two suns from that initial scene in the movie, right? Create the eyes there. Then the Boba Fett from Empire had the Cloud City, shape of the Cloud City there to create the mask for Boba Fett. So these ones are great. Love those. And then these ones here for the Lord of the Rings movies. Okay, they're simple, but I really like how this designer kind of incorporated some pieces from the books, and then with the different shapes of the taken from the movies. Okay, so again, but keeping a nice sense of balance and composition throughout. All right, so so that's your assignment for this week. Want you to between now and Wednesday, pick out a movie that you want, and we'll talk about your movie on Wednesday and what you're going to focus on, and then also the this design daily create. I'd like to go over those on Wednesday and see what you guys come up with. Okay, so get that done, and then have your movie picked out by Wednesday. Alrighty, that's all I got for this week. So again, review the book, take a look at what they have there in the book, and if you work on those 2 assignments for this week, we'll come back Wednesday and talk about that, and also show, probably I'll do some Photoshop and InDesign, maybe some Illustrator tutorials real quick with you guys on Wednesday as well, if we have time. All right, that's all I got for today. Have a good day, and we'll see you guys later.
See ya.
Bye.